Hello. Today is the 9th of April 2022. I was thinking about what topic to talk about today for today's vlog at work. I worked a 9-hour shift, so I had plenty of time to think about it, but maybe not enough, because the best thing I could think about is the value of influencers. Because we had one of those Instagram models come in to claim their free food from the marketing team at our restaurant. It was kind of embarrassing to watch in many ways, because her, the influencers, quote unquote, the Instagram models' boyfriends went in to take about 20 minutes worth of photos there, and I just cringed. Because what if they reduced their life to, especially the boyfriend, who basically is cucking himself by taking those photos, because the main audience of Instagram models is just horny guys. So I don't support it, and and I feel bad for the guy, but perhaps ignorance is bliss, and he's having a great time with his pretty girlfriend, right? That leaving that aside, that's the question for today. What value do influencers have on our lives, or on society in general? And there are a lot of types of influencers, right? I mean, I would say an Instagram model is probably on the lowest rung of that, the usefulness, and perhaps even is detrimental to the male psyche. Oh my god, can you hear that in the background? I hope not. Okay. Well, my brother's just fucking making some strange sounds, so I hope that doesn't pick up on the microphone. As I was saying, I think Instagram models are on the bottom rung of the utility and, I guess, value, like the spectrum of value, because they're basically just porn stars, but socially acceptable porn stars. They basically infiltrate. They take what is wrong with pornography and male sexuality, and they shove it into your everyday life, into a socially acceptable medium. They show up in your Instagram feed, and and then so you see pretty women everywhere, and sometimes they're, well, first of all, they're like way prettier than most women. I mean, you'd have to be an Instagram model, or just cake on the makeup, or have nice angles or whatever. What was I saying? Yeah, I mean, when your Instagram is, Instagram or TikTok or whatever is just lined with just pretty women doing cute things or whatever, or like the random shit. What I'm saying is that this part of male sexuality that grips that like grips guys, there's a guys will understand that when they're when they're horny, or they've been influenced by, quote unquote, influencers, if they've been influenced by a girl or by a visual, usually a visual, they'll kind of lose their sense of self and fall into a trap of lust. Okay, because let's be real, the only people who really follow these quote unquote Instagram models are guys. Yeah, so that feeling of losing oneself infiltrates into every part of life, even normal life, right? We're able to separate moments of intense sexuality, usually if we just keep it to porn. But if we, have an Instagram feed or a TikTok feed or whatever the fuck, full of basically softcore porn that comes to grip every facet of a guy's life, and it removes an ability to be self-aware in a way. I mean, I think most people really just don't like. Actually, most people probably just don't have an opinion about it, but I would say that they provide very Instagram influencers, models or whatever, provide very little value to society and to someone's personal life, because you use it in the same way you use pornography as a guy. What other influencers are there? We have, YouTubers who make entertainment, and I guess I don't really see a lot of entertainment as very valuable, especially if it's like not meaningful. I mean, I can see, quote unquote high culture movies, or like, not Marvel, basically movies like Fight Club and American Psycho and The Truman Show, that are quite meaningful if you dig deep into them and ask questions about life. Like that is fine media. Oh gosh. Like I'm happy to have that media stay, but a lot of kind of cheap and crappy entertainment, like something like Marvel movies, probably be not too bad, but not very meaningful. YouTube videos of people playing games, people talking about random events, like the Will Smith slap thing. Everyone's talking about it. When it happened, my YouTube feed was filled with it, and I did avoid clicking on it because I just don't think I care about celebrities at all. Because I think when you care about celebrities or influencers, you're doing that because you want to live their life in a way. You're living their life vicariously instead of living yours. Because you have so little to care about, you have so little drama in your life. So that's why people tend to care about celebrities. It's because the people, their lives, they're not so interesting. And celebrities' lives are always interesting, especially when they exaggerate everything. But yeah, I see a lot of such entertainment as not very valuable at all. And the effect of influences on our lives is not positive. It doesn't really help us find truths or really be happy. It merely entertains, which is, I think, a way to stop your mind from being so noisy. It all comes back to that, I think. Like, why do people feel bored? It's because they can't really live with the voices in their head. And I'm not saying that as like, people are like, oh, I hear voices in my head. That's like going crazy. But when your head is noisy, you hear yourself thinking a lot, basically. They're like voices. Or maybe I'm going insane. I don't know. But I'm going to assume that people have quote unquote voices in their head. They think a lot, basically. And I think entertainment is basically a good coping mechanism to avoid that. And that also applies for Instagram influencers, though. Instagram models, sorry, I should call them. Instagram models take that a step further because they play into male sexuality. And I can't comment for women, so I will avoid that because I'm not a woman. Yeah, and that's basically the bottom rung. And it doesn't. They don't. Such influences don't make your life meaningful. In fact, they just play into hedonism, and you won't be flourishing. Sure, you have pleasure, maybe, right? But I like this term eudaimonia, which my one of the lecturers defined as flourishing, but it's like a long-term sort of happiness, and I don't think that can come from seeking pleasure. It doesn't come from short-term entertainment. It doesn't come from short-term pleasures, right? It comes from in a way living for yourself, right? It doesn't come from stopping your head from being noisy, but by, I suppose, utilizing that to the fullest, taking that and doing shit with it. I think that's what makes things meaningful, and I don't think that influences can bring that to you. I think there are some people who can. There are certainly quote unquote influences that can truly bring meaning to your life, and they don't do that by virtue of the content they make. Like they don't make your life better because you watch the video. Like you can just watch the video and not take action on it, and it'll probably have the same value as watching someone play video games for 2 hours or something. It's really what is truly valuable is when you watch the video or read the book or whatnot, consume the content, and you make changes to your life based on that. You develop a system of thinking. You find meaning in it. You do things for yourself. I think one of such people as contentious as his name is Jordan Peterson. While I don't agree with his political beliefs, what he says about meaning is, I think, very true, and that kind of brings light to, it illuminates what your life could be, right? I mean, it's far from it seems that being a consumer is never the answer. And I think that John Peterson, who I believe is an existentialist, really introduced, or maybe not introduced, but he got that idea in my head that we must create meaning for ourselves. And again, even him, who I like, even Jordan Peterson, I wouldn't say is valuable, but it's the way that we act on influences content that is valuable. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, who don't have a desire for meaning will always be happy to simply consume, right? To simply follow celebrities and influencers. But none of that really makes you an individual, right? You become a part of a system by doing that. You merely serve a system, right? You merely serve to make the influencer money, to make the platform money, specifically YouTube, TikTok, etc., Instagram, etc. And then you see nothing from it. There's nothing to show for it, you know, and there's certainly no meaning behind it. Why is there no meaning behind it? That's a good question. It seems that meaning is what you make of it, right? Like I think many people can agree that there's no intrinsic meaning of life, and such so that you have to create it for yourself, right? And you could just say, you know, I'll say that the meaning of my life is to enjoy myself through entertainment. And, you know, I don't know how well I could dispute against that. Because that could be very fair, you know. But it just seems wrong to me. And I don't know if I can articulate why, or even know why, for that matter. It seems that while in consumption we can relate to the content, right? We have say we will talk about art, right? So you're consuming art, which I think is, you know, a lot better than merely consuming, you know, entertainment. We consume art. You are relating to the content that is being consumed. Or sorry, you're relating to the content the artist is producing. So the artist has an interpretation of the world, and you take that interpretation, and then you feel a certain way because you relate to it. Like there's someone else having that feeling, which is a good feeling, right? So that's consumption. Say there was no one to consume. You know, actually, let's say there's no one to create. There's no one to create any art, no any entertainment. You can't consume if there is no people to create the content, right? But however, you can, like if you imagine a world with no one to consume, you can still create art. You can still create content for people to relate to. And so, in a way, consumption relies on artistry. It relies on creation. And so it seems to me that creation or expressing things for people to relate to is infinitely more valuable than the art of than consumption itself. Anyone can consume, but not everyone can create. And creation is merely expressing a part of the human experience, is it not? Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's a okay argument, not a great argument for why creation is preferable to consumption. Um, but look, if there's no one to consume your content, there's always you, and you will understand it better than anyone else. But mm, yeah, so I think creation is more meaningful because it doesn't rely on other people creating. It doesn't rely on uh, on pre-existing media to consume, right? So it doesn't matter if there's no YouTube videos in the world. I can still create a YouTube video. Or if it doesn't matter if I don't know. Sorry, what am I saying? It just seems to not matter. Um, it doesn't. Creation doesn't base itself um, entirely, I guess, at least, on the things that already exist. But consumption does. And I think the things that um, seem to me to be meaningful are the things that do not rely on other things or rely on other things to the least extent. So I've had this realization that maybe not necessarily meaningful things, but valuable things are always the ones that you can carry with you. Omnia mea mecum porto, which I'll definitely talk about later in another vlog. But it means the things that are valuable I carry with me, namely knowledge. But it's true of everything. It's that I've as I understand it, the things that are valuable rely on other things the least. So you see, money is valuable in a way, but intrinsically money is not valuable because it relies on so many things. It relies on there being an economy. It relies on other people also seeing money as valuable. It relies on currency, value of currency, its own value, or I guess the value of the intrinsic value of money itself. If it's like a silver coin, it seems to have more value than a nickel coin, right? Because it's more useful, and the metal itself is more useful, right? So say I have a USB stick, right? That might be valuable, right? It's useful. It lets you transfer data from one computer to another. But without the context, the computer in the first place, what value does the USB have? Right, very little. It's just a piece of plastic or fiberglass and some other trace amounts of metals. And so what I think is that the things that are valuable are the things that rely on the least things. And that's why I think creation is more valuable and meaningful than consumption, because consumption relies on creation, and creation does not rely on consumption necessarily. I mean, it could, but you can always, like, even if you've never consumed any piece of media, I'm sure you could create, just based on the human experiences you have, and those things are you will always have a human experience if you're a human, right? So let's think about that in terms of influences, right? I feel like the value of Instagram models largely depends on your sexuality, right? If you are not male or do not have a male-like sexuality, then you'll not see it as valuable, right? Maybe if you're a woman, you won't see Instagram models as valuable as men. So it depends, right? Maybe value isn't the eye of the beholder, but if it relies on less things, then it's more likely that the eye of the beholder will value it. Say, if something is valuable to all humans instead of just men, surely it's more valuable than those things that are valuable to only men. And it's not necessarily only men; it's mostly only young men who are, don't have their sexual needs satisfied. Right. So we have that, and then for entertainment, I'd say that entertainment is largely a coping mechanism for our shit lives, just as alcohol is. Why do we drink alcohol? It's because we want to escape something. Your noisy mind, perhaps, the shittiness of your boss. To have fun, which is also escaping boredom. Right? So it relies on that in the first place, and I'd say that I don't think it's always been true that I don't think it's always been true that humans are always bored. I think when we're in the most natural sense of self, as hunter-gatherers or in nature, you'll have a hard time being bored, because that's the environment you were designed to be in. Yeah, so I would say, and also talking about influences again. Once you've dealt with your lust in whatever way you see suitable, it seems that those images don't appeal to you anymore. They're not valuable anymore as a guy, right? So it seems extremely circumstantial for the value of those people, of those posts. And as I said, the more circumstances something relies on to be valuable, the less valuable it is. Right. Yeah, so I think a lot is valueless. I think a lot has little value. The things that only apply to you in certain circumstances. All right. Yeah. It doesn't matter about the absence of. So say you consume content that talks about some sort of philosophical musing that's actually meaningful. So existentialism. So you watch something about existentialism or about the meaning of your existence, for example. That's always valuable. It doesn't matter what circumstance you're in, it's useful. Whereas if I watch a video on how to do, I don't want to be sexist, but how to do your makeup, in a world without cosmetics, it's not very useful, is it? You go out into the outback or somewhere poor, and there's not really cosmetics there. It's not a useful skill or knowledge, right?